Well, thanks for joining us. Welcome to the January 2021 webinar that's produced exclusively for the membership of the National Chimney Sweep Guild. And this is done by CVC Success Group. So today, there's going to be two of us doing the presentation. Myself and Sheryl is also going to be on this today, offering her unique insights into the thoughts that we're going to share with you today. So Sheryl, anything you'd like to say before we start?
Nope, I just want to see everybody get as much as they can out of this, and hopefully it'll be a big help.
There you go. So here's where we're going to start at. You know, we just started into a whole new year, and it's time to take a look at something. You know, you may be joining us, and you may have been in this industry and self-employed for a number of years, or perhaps you've been in it a few years, or perhaps you're just coming into it as an entrepreneur at this point. So here's what I'd like to start this with. I'd like you to clear your mind, just clear it completely out. And I want you to look and put a blank wall up in front of you. And on that blank wall, what's there is a picture of your life and your business in 3 years. That's right, in 3 years. If you could have everything fall into place for you, what would that picture show you? Does it show you how large your company is? Does it show you how profitable your company is? But what about your life? Are you doing the things in 3 years that you really want to be doing? Is your life fulfilling? And is your business and your life making you happy? So Sheryl, what's your thoughts as I say those things this morning?
You know, people need to learn to visualize what they want to see, because until you can actually see it, almost to the point of touching it, it's just a dream. But if you can see it and you can almost smell the roses that are in the picture of the new success you've got, then it becomes a goal. And once it becomes a goal, you can start the process of heading towards your goal. But until then, that blank wall is just a blank wall.
Okay. So now, hopefully, you have formed this into your mind. You got this picture of what it's all going to look like. And this is something that we all need to do. So often, we're not looking in a short term of 3 years. We're often looking at retirement, exit plans, and other things. But let's keep it in control here. Let's talk about your 3-year plan. You see, when I talk to people as a coach and we get started, this is what it's all about. It's not about building their business to what I envision it to be. Rather, it's what they envision to be. So what they've got to do is they've got to take their steps to move to that plateau they've set up. And each of those steps is going to take work. Let's get real here. Running a business is hard work. It can consume you. It usually takes more time than you ever imagined you would have to devote into this. And you may even have people ask, you know, are you not having any fun? Are you not having relaxation? Or you're not doing those things? Because people that are on a track for a certain success, they've got to invest in it with a lot of hard work. And they're going to go through some failures. And they can't let the failures halt them. So Sheryl, what's your thought process from what I just said? What would you share with?
Well, I'll start back where you started. You can't live someone else's dream. You can't live someone else's vision. It has to be yours. Now, can they have a hand in helping you with that vision? Yes. But it's all about where you want to be, the steps you can take. And he's correct. It's not always easy. Some things come easier than others, but basically it's a hard road. No one hands you out anything. You work, you scrap, but then, you know, when you can see the end results, it's super. You go to that 3rd year, you're where you need to be, But again, remember, that's your dream. Make sure you take yourself there, and make sure you bring your associates with you, because you can't build that dream alone.
Right. And this is one of the things I want to make real evident. You know, a lot of times we see people, they may go to a class, may go to a seminar, and they may hear what other people are doing with their businesses. And many times they say, well, you know, I think I want to do that. I want to grow to that level. But here's my question. What do you truly want to do in your business? You see, it is your business, and it is what will make you happy. And this is what I know about entrepreneurs. And you are an entrepreneur if you have started your own business. Entrepreneurs have to set their own course of where they're going. They can't let others dictate to them, well, you need to grow to this size or to this size or to this size. So part of this is, if you want to grow to a 20, 30 truck operation, hey, I applaud you. If you want to remain a solopreneur, which is just you, and that's what makes you happy, then yes, I also applaud you for your thoughts there, because that's what you've got to set your steps up for, is to grow to the level and the size that you envision. So Sheryl, what's your thoughts on that part that I've just talked about?
My main thought is, what are you willing to give up? What are you willing to give up to that part to get to those trucks? Is it time? Is it vacations? Is it things that you really love that you're going to have to give up for a while to reach your goal, to reach your picture, to reach your huge trucks? Be aware, it's painful growing at times. You've got to be willing to give up something to get something. And that's mainly what I try to impose into everyone, because that is what it takes. You can't just keep getting and getting and getting without letting go.
You know, it's like one of our coaches and mentors, Larry Winget, often shared with us. If you're going to go up, what are you willing to give up to go up? You see, you're limited in the number of hours that you have. Each and every one of us are granted 24 hours in any given day. And it's up to us to decide. So as you grow this, there's going to be things that you may be forced to give up in order to get to your goals. That's why you got to have your map firmly and thoroughly established of where you're going to go to each and every day. And if you don't have this map, you're not going to be able to get there. And following the map is vastly important. And the map has got to be one that will work for you. Now, maybe this means that you follow a path that is established, one that others have used to get there. But sometimes the path that another has conceived in a different marketplace may not work in the market that you're in. So again, it goes down to mapping out. One of the principles that Sheryl and I have taught in classes is a process called mind mapping, where we actually write things down on paper and draw a map to bring us all there. So Sheryl, what would you add about mind mapping and how this can help people get to their destination?
In your mind map, you have a center point. That's your goal. That's your destination. That's where you're going. And then you draw things off to the side of what's going to help you get there. And once you get this step done, what do you have to do to make it become reality, to make your goal become reality? Because mind mapping is just a set of steps. You can't just go to the top. You've got to take the steps. But if you can see them written down, do your mind map. It's a very easy thing to do. I call it mind dumping. You dump everything onto a piece of paper that you can conceive that you want. Then you back off and you make your outline out from that point. And that outline becomes your goal. That goal becomes your path. And that's how you get from point A to point B without having to think. Once you dump it on that map, it's in writing. It's legitimate. It's not chiseled in gold, but it's writing.
Right. And one of the processes that we recommend, and there's several we're going to go over here today. One is what's called a SWOT. And what is a SWOT? A SWOT is where we pause and we sit down and we look at the key letters that the SWOT stands for. This starts with S. And what you've got to examine is, what are your strengths? What are the strengths that are going to take you to where you need to go and where you want to go? The W stands for weaknesses. And what we have to do is we have to examine, what are the weaknesses of our businesses? And what are the weaknesses that we ourselves have that we need to conquer? And see, as we go through the SWOT process, which we do with quite a few people every year, the strengths and the weaknesses are both interior issues. But we have to look outside of there. What does the O stand for? Excuse me. The O stands for the opportunities and the threats. That's right, the threats to your business. What are the opportunities that are out there for you to expand upon? And what are the threats that could rear their ugly head at any time? Such as right now, we all know that dealing with the coronavirus, is a definite threat. So we have to have our eyes open to what the threats are that we will encounter in our businesses in the coming years. Sheryl, your thoughts?
Okay. When I'm doing the SWOT with people, the things personally that I think are the most important out of the SWOT are the weaknesses and the opportunities, because those are the two things you have control over. You can take your weaknesses, you can work with them, you can make them strengths. You can see your opportunities, you can go get them, or you can leave them laying on the table. But with the SWOT, again, as in the mind map, it's all written down: strength, weakness, opportunities, threats. Then you can balance them off against each other. You can do this in business, you can do it in your home life. Actually, it's a good thing for everybody to think about doing in their business. I don't see how business survives without it.
Right.
Many of the major corporations, in fact, all that I know of, do SWOTs.
There you go. And another thing you've got to do to be effective is you've got to analyze the past. You've got to look at what's went on in the past. What were the roadblocks that came up in your way? What areas of the business are out of round? And when we say out of round, this is, a lot of businesses have strengths. And this is one of the spokes in the wheel, is these various strengths. But many times there are weaknesses within the business model. It may be processes, it may be systems, it may be training, it may be hiring, it may be onboarding, it could be accountability, any number of things. So what you've got to do is be able to self-analyze where your business at the end of the year. And one of the gifts we would like to give you is we prepared a self-analysis form here at CBC Success Group. And if you just send us an email at info@cbcsuccessgroup.com, we'll be more than happy to send you a copy of our self-analysis and goal-setting chart that you can use to help you put these things together. Sheryl, what's your thoughts on what I just said?
My question is, have you ever analyzed yourself? We tend to analyze everything around us, but you need to analyze yourself. You need to analyze your business. You need to be aware of what's going on in your box. And this report works. It's so great because it takes you into every field. It brings you back into reality. It's not easy, but it's self-diving. You will dive deeper than you have probably ever dived in your life. It's almost like having your own shrink sitting next by. And so with that, I think if you just take the time to do it, you will see where your strengths and weaknesses are.
Okay. And also, I'm going to encourage you. There's some business principles that you really need to look at. And this is part of what we recommend to every client. And one of the first books, the principles that we suggest that you look at if you're going to move in the right direction, is to read a book by a gentleman by the name of Michael Gerber. And the name of this book is The E-Myth and the E-Myth Revisited, which is a later version. But what Michael talks about in here is, how do you build the systematized the business? How do you build the business that is replicatable? This is part of the processes. And you see, if you listen to Michael Gerber as he speaks, which I've had the privilege of meeting Michael, having breakfast with him before, is he talks about the four facets or the four skills of every successful entrepreneur. They are the following: the thinker. Are you a thinker? Then you've got the doer, the person that makes it happen. Then you've got the storyteller. The storyteller is the one that tells the story of the business. In fact, Sheryl and I, we subscribe to the services of Scott McKain. And Scott McKain is probably the most extraordinary storyteller and teaches people how to tell a story. How to tell a story about that. And I'm going to tell you a little story in a little bit that hopefully will help you in your path. But you've got to be all these things. So, Sheryl, as I talk about the thinker, the doer, the storyteller, and the leader, what are your thoughts there?
You can be a little bit of all of these, but you can't be good at all of them. You have to walk your path. You have to find other people in your life to fill these other parts. Again, you need to be some of all of them, but you also, to be a good leader, you need to have people that you are leading that are experts in some of these fields also. But these are written words that people really need to look at. They didn't make them up. These came with hard training. They came with examples of people they worked with. So it's not just something someone threw together. Read and learn. Never, ever stop reading and learning.
Right. And another book that I'm going to highly suggest that if you've never read it, you should. And if you've read it, perhaps you need to go back and study this again. And the name of this book is Traction. And it is written by a gentleman by the name of Gino Wickman. And from this, they have developed what's called the EOS system, the Entrepreneurial Operating System. And as you go through Mr. Wickman's works, he's going to tell you that there are two key skills in people, behavior patterns, and what people have got to do to be successful. And if you can be both, more power to you, but very few people have the traits of both. And what does Mr. Wickman talk about? He talks about one person, which is the visionary. The visionary can foresee the future. The visionary can see where we're going in this world. The visionary brings the vision and has got to be the storyteller to get that out to others. Now, the other trait of the leadership of the company is what Gino calls the integrator. And in my practice, I call it the implementer. So what does the integrator or the implementer do? They're the person that implements it into the business itself. And also another concept that Mr. Wickman talks about in his book is the right person in the right seat. And see, that's what often happens that kills many businesses. We got really good people, but are they in the right seat? Are they in the seat that complements their skills, their abilities, to where they can take the business and help you take it to that next level? Because we all need help to get to where we're going. So what's your thoughts on the visionary and the integrator or implementer, Sheryl?
As you said, you can be both. You just can't be really good at both. It's like the other situation. So in your business, you look for the opposite of yourself, because if you've got all of you, then your business is one track. If you can divide it up and have some of each. Now, if you're the implementer, you need someone out there coming up with the ideas. On the other hand, if you're the visionary, you need somebody to take care of them. Or all they are, they're ideas. They're never implemented. They just sit where you are. So in our business, I suggest everyone analyze their employees. Analyze whether they're a visionary or whether they're an implementer. Because if they're a visionary, they're more analytical. They can do other things. The visionary is going to take this and they're going to go with it. Again, we each all have different behavior patterns. And without knowing, number one, your behavior patterns and the behavior patterns of your employees, you can never be a true circle company.
Okay. So, Sheryl, one of the things that you learned in your Ziegler certification and coaching was the matter of the Ziegler wheel. I'm gonna call it the wheel of success or the wheel of life, whatever we want to call it. But what you shared with me was this is where I got the idea from, the round wheel. So if you would you explain to people what Ziegler taught you about the round wheel and how important it is to have a round wheel that rolls smoothly on the path?
When we were in class, we were given a graph, a wheel. It had different spokes, religion, monetary, all different kinds. And you graduated yourself to a number that was there. And then the dots were connected. Jerry does one in his business that's more business oriented, and the dots are connected. When they're connected, they should be close to a circle. That means your life or your business is well rounded. As we all know, a round wheel rolls better. Many of us have one spoke that's a whole lot more evident than others. And sometimes, as good as it is, it holds us back because it keeps us out of the balance. That's what the wheel is supposed to do. It's supposed to balance us.
Yeah. So one of the things that Sheryl and I are able to do is we talk about different people that we meet through our coaching training, and she's sharing thoughts with you from what she learned at the Ziegler training she went through, which has been rather intense on her. Now, one of my trainings has been with the John Maxwell organization, and John Maxwell is all about training for leadership, how to be a leader. So as I talk about books that I recommend, one of the things, as Mr. Gerber said, is you have to be the leader. And being the leader is a difficult task. So John Maxwell wrote a book called The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And in this, he goes over the 21 traits of successful leaders. And he gives you stories about different people, such as in the Law of the Lid, he talks about the McDonald's brothers and their relationship with Ray Kroc, because the McDonald brothers had a lid they couldn't operate past. And see, that's where many of us are in life. We have a lid that we cannot move past that. It could be our comfort zones. It could be any number of things. But in order for success, you have to come and rise above that lid. And if you can't rise alone, you're going to have to get people to work with you that can help you move to that level. So Sheryl, tell me something. What's a key thing that you learned from your involvement with the Ziegler organization?
It's a little different. Is it about leadership? Yes, but it's the ethical parts of the leadership, the strengths, your strengths, your weaknesses, how to bring people into leadership with the morals and with the standards that we work with. The thing about it is you can be the best leader in the world, but without the empathy and what you need to work with people, it never happens. So Ziegler comes off from a much softer side of leadership. It takes you through with the compassion. Excuse me. It takes you through with the human factor.
Okay, so let's take you back to where we started this story. We started today's and we asked you to please make a mental picture of where you want to be in 36 months. What is that picture? And it's got to be a picture that you select, not a picture that anyone else selects, because this is your life, this is your business, and it's got to fit within what your comfort zones is and where do you want to go into life. Now, once you've got that, again, what have you got to do? You've got to establish each of those stair steps is going to take you to that destination. Each one of those stairs treads have something written on it, and it has what you're going to accomplish. Is it going to be in the area of processes, in systems? Is it going to involve hiring? Is it going to involve education and training for your people? Is it going to involve education and training for you? Is it going to involve being able to step up and track the data in the business? Does it mean you've got to learn more about your numbers? See, these are all the things. Knowing your data, knowing your numbers. A lot of people think that when we say knowing your numbers, it means we know what the bank balance is. Well, just knowing the bank balance is not knowing the numbers. Knowing the numbers is the data that drives your business. It's the KPIs that you check on a regular basis that measures your success. You see, if we're not measuring, we can't improve. And more than likely, what you're going to have to do, if you're like most human beings, in order to get to that plateau you've set, you've got to set a course of self-improvement. So more than likely, one of those steps is going to involve self-education of yourself to get there. You see, again, this is the whole thing. This is your dream. This is your reality. This is your life. This is where you're going to take yourself and your business to take it to an entirely new level so that you know and you live those dreams you have for both your business and your life and your family and your loved ones and those around that support you. So, Sheryl, what else would you add to this webinar today?
Well, just to touch on what you just said, as Ziegler said, there's no elevator to success. There's only steps. And each step must be met before the other. So with your path in mind, plot out your steps, stick to the path, and eventually you can see that 3 years. If there's a little alteration, step back just a second, but get back on the tread. Never look back. Always look forward. Look up that staircase, and you'll reach that map that you had printed in your mind.
Yeah. So you got to become your own cheerleader. You got to be able to drive yourself. You got to be able to get your goals written down and track and measure your goals. And this is what I want you to remember. Put those steps in 30-day increments. You cannot accomplish getting up all those steps in one time. But if you set yourself, and that's one of the principles, again, that Mr. Wickman talks about in traction. He calls them rocks because he named it after the Rockefeller principles. So instead of having this big, gigantic single goal, getting to your dreams involves a series of small goals that are accomplishable. So set your path on how to get there. So Sheryl, anything else to add before we end this webinar?
I just want to wish everybody out there an easy staircase, because if you can see it, if you can dream it, you can see it, you can reach it. It's all in the goals and the steps you set for yourself.
That's it. So this is Jerry Isenhour, Sheryl Isenhour from CVC Success Group. I want to thank you for your time spent with us today. Each and every month, it's an honor, it's a privilege, and it's a pleasure for us to be able to share our thoughts with you. But the reason we do this is we want you to get the benefit. If we can help you, reach out to us. We'd be glad to have a phone call. We'd love to help you get started up those stairs to that plateau, that magic dream that you got sitting out there. It's waiting for you. But remember this, only you can make it happen. And with that, we're going to end today's webinar. We appreciate you joining us, and we'll see you next month on our next monthly webinar that we produce exclusively for the membership of the National Chimney Sweep Guild.